The media don't agree with the phrase, don't mess with Texas. It's the NewsBusters podcast. I'm Tim Graham, executive editor. With me today, Dan Schneider, vice president of Free Speech America, and our special guest, Congressman Brendan Gill of Texas. Pleased to have you, Congressman.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Our favorite Brendan Gill moment of this year is the March 26 Doge hearing with the PBS and CEO, PBS CEO and the NPR CEO, Catherine Marr. And, you know, her tweets before she got hired were something special. And I remain convinced that they were a plus in her hiring.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, but you had great fun running through some of the clips with her, and especially how she couldn't remember being in favor of reparations.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
You know, the funniest part about that hearing, I thought, was that, she had been prepped extensively. She had an army of lawyers sitting right behind her. And this was really high stakes for them. I mean, we were talking about withdrawing over $500 million every year in funding for NPR and PBS. So this was a big deal for them. And yet it was funny whenever I asked her about her advocacy for reparations, which, by the way, was something that she put on her Twitter. So it was something she thought was important enough to type out and to hit send for the whole world to see. Whenever I asked her about that, whenever I asked her about some of the other crazy things that she had said, she all of a sudden had no recollection at all. And I tend to believe exactly what you were saying, is that I think she probably did believe all of those things, and it probably did contribute to her getting her position. I think that she knew that for a long time, all she needed to do was tweet out things like America is addicted to white supremacy, and that would help her climb the ladder in left-wing media and eventually get her a spot as CEO of NPR. But now that we're in charge now that Republicans have control in Washington, we're looking at this and we're saying this is insane that our tax dollars pay for this.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness Republicans succeeded with the president's help in rescinding the funding. But I know Dan Schneider is always watching for backsliding. Any backsliding?
We've got to stop the backsliders. But let me just make a comment, because Tim and I were actually seated next to those lawyers, the lobbyists and lawyers for NPR and PBS. Throughout that hearing, we were right next to them, and you could feel the heat radiating off of their bodies, heat from anxiety, as they were watching their two bosses, the CEOs of NPR and PBS, completely melting. And then after the hearing, I was standing right next to them. They didn't say a word. They had tails between their legs, knowing that all of their work had come to naught, that their bosses had completely screwed up. It was fabulous.
Well, Brandon, the thing that got to me was them just saying, I've never heard any bias in NPR.
Never.
And it was just like, are you kidding me? I mean, obviously, as an audience member, I knew it would be rude, but I just wanted to say, oh, come on, and I didn't. Right. I restrained myself. But you and several other Republicans did such a great job of just trying to pin her down. And then when you talk about bias, and she'd be like, well, that must have happened when I wasn't here. Because she'd only been on the job for a year. So if you said, well, in 2022, you had this horrendous story in NPR. Well, I wasn't here. Don't blame me.
Right. She refused to take responsibility for anything. And it started with not remembering the things that she herself had said. Then it got into not taking responsibility for anything NPR had said in the past. And then refusing, in the face of an enormous amount of evidence to admit that NPR does have a very clear and obvious left-wing bias. I think in that hearing, I brought up articles that NPR had been pushing about fat phobia and transgender dinosaurs and some of the weirdest things that, normal people don't even think about is what NPR was using our tax dollars to promote. So, she wasn't well prepared, but, there's only so much preparation you can do for something like that because the facts were so clear. And the evidence was on our side that this is left-wing state-sponsored media who's pushing a radical liberal agenda on the American people, and they're getting tax dollars from taxpayers to do all of this. So I think that she had the only thing she could do is completely repudiate NPR's their recent past in their bias, and it would have been great to hear her do that, but of course she wasn't willing to.
Congressman, we really dislike the misuse of the word unique. But I will say it
of the word what?
Unique.
Okay.
But I will say advisedly that you are unique. I have seen so many members of Congress, I've seen so many lawyers in courtrooms try to set up the deponent, the witness, with thinking that they're going to do this 3 bank shot pool play, asking this question, then the person's going to have to respond that way, and then you'll do this. But you actually do that. You've got some kind of a crystal ball where you truly, uniquely are able to set somebody up. But it's not just the setup. It's for a particular value proposition. You are a master at it. It is fun to watch you at work.
Now, we could try to argue, Dan, that she was uniquely bad at responding.
Well, we've seen the congressman do this sort of thing repeatedly with other. I've never seen anybody who can. You're a magician up there.
All of this stuff is actually very. It's easy to make this stuff very complicated, but it's actually quite simple, and it's actually quite black and white. Whenever somebody tweets out, "America is addicted to white supremacy," for instance, just to use an example, that they clearly believed that at one time. But if you just look around, that most Americans today don't believe that. They find that to be a repugnant anti-American view that they don't relate to, and certainly wouldn't want to give our tax dollars to somebody who is using media outlets to promote views like that. All you have to do is just ask them, you said this, do you believe it? And see what they say.
The congressman is trying to dodge the compliment. So now I'm going to have to double down. With regard to reparations, the congressman specifically asked, and the NPR and PBS, I think it was NPR, Catherine Marr, should white people pay reparations? And she said, no. And then the congressman then followed. This is the point. Like 3 bank shots here. He then asked her, "How much have you paid in reparations?" And she said, "Well, I haven't." So then, and this is the money shot then. So it is just everyone else who has to pay. I mean, to get her to where you could show how ridiculous her position really is. I mean, I've never seen anybody be able to set people up as well as you do.
Well, I appreciate it. A lot of these people have never had anybody, I think, seriously call them or question them on their views. So whenever we have these hearings, it's a huge opportunity to do that. Whenever you have a witness who's under oath, who can't lie to you, it's a huge opportunity to expose what they truly believe. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah, and it's funny because here she is. She tweets out that America's addicted to white supremacy. When she went on the Colbert Show in September, long after this hearing, their propaganda headline on the YouTube video is, "Public media enables Americans to trust one another and make decisions together." Does addicted to white supremacy sound like you're going to play fair? Or like you're uniting people?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, I mean, these are outlets that are unbelievably divisive, actually, that promote very, very one-sided ideologies, whether it's promoting the transgender agenda or routinely calling Republicans racist or even worse. I mean, these are outlets that go out of their way to bash Republicans and run cover for Democrats. I mean, you can say a lot of things about NPR, but saying that they are a uniting force in the country is absurd.
Exactly.
You know, Congressman, we have been going after NPR and PBS for so long because they are essentially arms of government, since they receive massive taxpayer, or at least, well, they still do, through state taxes and even discretionary grant dollars. But as an arm of government, then the statute required them to strictly adhere to balance and objectivity in all programming. Wikipedia, I'm going to transition a little bit. Wikipedia does not get government funding, as far as I know. They get Soros money and other things. But yeah, Wikipedia, and I'm gonna do the Brandon Gill on you. You know, do you oppose eating household pets? Do you support deporting Ilhan Omar? Because Wikipedia, I looked at the Wikipedia page for you, and Wikipedia, Wikipedia hates you more than NPR does.
Wow.
And we now see Congressman Jim Jordan beginning some investigatory work into Wikipedia, which we applaud, even though, as far as we know, it doesn't get taxpayer dollars. It is this massive media outlet, and it is a publisher. It has blacklists. It will not allow conservative media to be cited. You know, it's specifically designed now to pursue a left-wing agenda. What can be done about Wikipedia?
Yeah, well, I mean, to your point, just ask the question. Look at any Republican public media figure or politician, and compare the entries to what you see for Democrats. And Republicans are routinely referred to as far right, conspiracy theorists, things like that that are used as pejorative terms. And if you look at how Democrats and left-wing public figures are described, it's in a much more sanitized, in clean and much more appealing way. If you look at Republicans, usually you'll see a long list of entries on Wikipedia of all the supposedly crazy things they had done. You don't see that for Democrats. You see a much more, much nicer description of them.
I know. I still don't
the reality.
I don't understand why you don't support eating household pets. That's just,
where was that?
I didn't even know that was on there, that was suggested.
Was that salon.com?
And then Wikipedia
has a lot of power. I mean, a lot of people read Wikipedia to see, just to get their either news or to get an idea of, use it like an online encyclopedia. So this is a very influential website.
It ain't the World Book.
Well, okay, but here's how this whole conveyor belt of left-wing spin works. Wikipedia blacklists all the right-of-center media outlets, prioritizes Al Jazeera and Haaretz and
BBC.
the BBC and Reuters and AP, all of these proven left-wing mouthpieces. And then Google prioritizes Wikipedia entries, and now with Google Gemini, you do basic Google search, and typically the first thing you get is the Google-generated AI answer. So its AI completely whitewashes the sources for all of this stuff, but it's then injecting straight into the American bloodstream left-wing propaganda through AI, and people don't realize it.
Oh, it makes a big difference. I mean, studies in the past have shown that just changing the Google search result, which is related to this, can change the way a certain portion of the electorate votes. I mean, this stuff has big consequences. These are powerful platforms. So you're exactly right. But the most obnoxious and in many ways the scariest thing is, to your point, they don't show their sources. They will, you search something in Google and you get an AI generated answer, and it's provided to you and portrayed as if it's gospel, as if it's just a factual account of whatever question you're asking. There's no hint that you're getting left-wing bias. It's highly disguised, and I think that's one of the more concerning things here.
This is where I'm like, I don't want a Wikipedia entry, because you don't want to know what people are going to do to you.
I know. I've had staff in prior jobs, this job, say, Dan, let's create a Wikipedia page for you. Like, no, no, nothing good can come of that.
Yeah, I mean, Brent Bozell's page, you know. And it used to be that you could be like, well, let me go in there and tidy it up a bit. And they don't really let you do that. Wasn't it supposed to be a user-friendly thing where you could become somebody who could revise, possibly? I just don't think that's available anymore.
Yeah, it started off as a democratizing effort to democratize knowledge. So you didn't have to buy the very, very expensive Britannica encyclopedia series. And co-founder Larry Sanger is now very critical of what has happened to the company that he helped found. It is really just a radical left-wing talking point.
So what else do we have on the congressional agenda on the free speech issues?
Congressman?
Well, listen, we're going to continue having hearings on a variety of topics, but I think one of the things that is related to free speech is the Biden administration cracking down on basically political dissent during his regime. So going after parents who didn't want their children being taught transgender ideologies in public schools, going after traditional Catholics, going after pro-lifers, all of that was a means of stifling dissent against the Biden administration. So investigations into that are going to continue. I think we'll have several more hearings on it. And I think that we do need to see justice and to reveal to the American people what the extent to which the Biden administration attacked the First Amendment during his time.
Yeah, I mean, these are stories that were not done. You know, them breaking into Mark Houck's home with guns, drawn in front of their children because he was mean to a guy who was assaulting his kid outside an abortion clinic. I mean, these are just stories that weren't done. The whole FBI, let's investigate people who attend the traditional Latin Mass because they're scary.
So my investigative team documented, recorded, and we published the 57 different censorship initiatives from the Biden administration spanning 93 federal agencies. This was a highly coordinated effort using billions of our tax dollars. And we got internal communications showing how, say, DHS, in cooperation with the State Department, were training teachers on how to fight against conservative groups, how to keep conservative media out of the classroom, and how to train people to infiltrate neo-Nazi groups like the Heritage Foundation, neo-Nazi groups like Prager University.
Yeah.
And there were 11 conservative groups that were labeled. Turning Point was one of them. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point are are radical neo-Nazi groups that must be stopped. Our tax dollars being used to do this.
Yes.
Well, Congressman, we're certainly looking forward to more hearings into this because the media don't want to talk about what Biden did to censor things, and they don't want the hearings that Congressman Comer's been doing into Biden's mental decline being hidden from people. Just not stories they're doing.
No, it's not. And that's all the more reason why it's important for us to bring all of this to light. Because if the media isn't going to do their job, and they clearly aren't, then it's our job to do these investigations and to get the facts out there. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, we appreciate your time. We're getting the wrap it up, fellas, signal. So thank you for spending some time with us today, Congressman.
No, thank y'all very much for having me. Thanks for everything you're doing. Y'all do phenomenal work, so I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Congressman.
Well, this all reminds me of spending days on the Hill with you, Dan, and taking some Ubers and meeting with members of Congress or a lot of staffers to members of Congress. And you could always tell within a few minutes, like, this guy's with us, this guy's not with us. But Congressman Gill he and his staff were with us, and I loved how they pulled stuff out, examples out in the hearings that we didn't have.
Yeah, we launched this effort really 18, 19 months ago. I'm sorry. We launched this effort 30-some years ago to defund NPR and PBS.
We didn't lobby on the Hill much until 19 months ago.
And our board member Terry Schilling, we knew we wanted to find a champion in the House and a champion in the Senate, and our board member Terry Schilling advised us there's this freshman out of Texas named Brandon Gill. He'd be great, and I was pretty skeptical because usually when you work with a member of Congress to actually push legislation or to fight something, you want somebody very senior who's got some power. But Terry is right, I'll say 80% of the time. And by Washington standards, that's phenomenal. If you're right 80% of the time, money in the bank. So we rolled the dice and went with Brandon Gill, who has turned out to be just a rock star. Truly amazing.
I'm with you that I enjoy him in other hearings that aren't on my topic.
Yeah. Well, and when you say your topic, you do more than NPR and PBS.
Yes.
But one of the things we did, of course, is create the Eric Scheiner, our head of MRC-TV, renamed the tower. I'm trying to remember the Tower of
Leaning Tower of Bias.
Leaning Tower of Bias, which is about 6.5 feet tall, of about 10 years of your work on NPR and PBS. So just a fraction of your total work.
And then you wheeled it into my office and said, here, it's a conversation piece.
It is your work, after all. But we wheeled it into the committee hearings. We wheeled it around Capitol Hill. We took it around.
The rally, the pro-PBS NPR rally.
Right, on the footsteps of the NPR headquarters.
With the fake Muppets.
Yes, with the Big Bird, which was, look, that rally, it was to rally support for continued forced taxpayer funding for NPR and PBS. And they had it on the steps of the NPR headquarters. And there were two lies on display to the whole world right there. First, they had Big Bird and the Count, and those were never even NPR characters.
Right.
They had been PBS characters until HBO bought the rights.
Right.
Now Netflix has the rights.
Right.
For 13 years, they're not properties of PBS.
And they've never been they've never been the argument. You know, I mean, the Democrats, like in the hearing in March, they were all like, "Oh, do you think Elmo's a red? Because he is red." You know,
You're trying to kill Big Bird.
they always have to argue with the puppets, and it's like that's not the point.
Well, and the other lie at that rally, they had an ACLU lawyer up there talking about how ending forced taxpayer subsidies to NPR and PBS, that would violate the First Amendment, censorship. Wait. Nobody is entitled to a government earmark.
Yeah.
But that ACLU lawyer was shameless up there.
Yeah, I mean, if the taxpayers were forced to send $1 million to NewsBusters, I don't think they'd see that as a First Amendment issue when you took it away. They might see it as a First Amendment issue when they give it to you.
Yeah.
Even now, PBS NewsHour recently celebrating its 50th anniversary, and they were saying, we've always tried to bring depth, insight, and fairness. I'm like, that is incorrect. That is a pants-on-fire lie.
Do you know how I know that is incorrect, Tim Graham?
Well, you read NewsBusters.
Exactly. Because you have been the king of this. Really, Tim, Congress paid attention to Tim Graham. Congress, the reason we were able to win this fight ultimately is because Donald Trump was elected president.
Yep.
But the only way he was able to push this and we were able to support that whole effort was because of the massive amount of work you've done over the years.
Well, and we have a whole team now. Clay Waters is our PBS specialist. Alex Christie loves doing some PBS and NPR items. But yeah, I mean, it is... it never ends. And the whole, obviously before they were defunded, they never changed. And they certainly nobody expected them to change after they were defunded. But they're still pushing this fiction, at least out in public.
Yeah.
It's like we are always straight down the middle. It's like anybody who watches you knows better. And your natural audience in public broadcasting are the blue state liberals. They know that. They know that's where their audience is from, where their private donations are coming from.
Yeah, and with this government shutdown, the attention has shifted to half of the battle. The attention is about health care, and is Donald Trump trying to steal Obamacare subsidies and whatever. But the other half of the battle that's going on behind the scenes, Chuck Schumer, Senate Democrats are trying to restore all of this funding to NPR and PBS. And so we've continued our work, but just last week, the Speaker of the House tweeted again, we are not going to go back to funding NPR and PBS. He is resolute. We've ripped out this, frankly, this unconstitutional subsidy. And by unconstitutional, I mean NPR and PBS have been mouthpieces of government using our tax dollars and doing so to censor half of America. It is unconstitutional. And the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who is a First Amendment attorney, people forget he is a constitutional attorney specializing in First Amendment law. So he's been a great champion on this issue.
Well, it's funny to me because just the way that they're so shameless in trying to claim that they're independent. They sound like state-run radio and state-run TV when the Democrats are in power. Now they'll claim they're independent when they're fiercely anti-Trump. And so when we find, for example, that NPR's 53-3 in its guest count, 53 liberals and 3 conservatives, that doesn't even count NPR interviewing its own reporters, which is something they do every day. And that could count as another liberal interview. It's sort of the way they do things. So I had one thing I was listening to on the radio, I guess it was last Thursday, a week ago, when they had a whole report on Antifa where the guy comes on and says, it's just an idea. All that nonsense. And then the very next story is all about the dangerous far-right organizations.
Yeah, so the left right now is very upset at Trump for what he's doing on addressing criminal conduct by Antifa. And of course, Trump has talked about going after the donors and the organizers. So the left's response is, it's not an organization, stupid. Just like the mafia. The mafia was not incorporated. There were no articles of incorporation filed in the state of New York Secretaries of State office saying, oh, we are Mafia, Inc.
Yeah.
The whole point of the RICO statute is to go after a conspiracy of individuals who are not incorporated. Antifa's not an organization. Right, exactly. That's the point. It's a conspiracy of individuals all over the country engaging in criminal conduct, and it's well financed, it's well organized. This is exactly why RICO is the perfect statute to go after them.
Yeah, I just always find it fascinating that people who would say that they're against insurrection, certainly when it comes to the Capitol on January 6th, they are actually encouraging people who are committing insurrection at ICE buildings, engaging in violent conduct. Suddenly law enforcement isn't good.
Yeah, we can't leave without talking about Chaz and Chop, Seattle and Portland, Oregon, where these Antifa people took over the city center, and held that ground with the permission of both governors and both mayors of those states and cities. It was essentially government-sanctioned leftism run amok, and people were murdered. Mayhem, people lost their not only lives, but then lots of property. The kind of carnage that went on there was not picked up by the legacy media for the most part, but it was really terrible.
And it's still not. I mean, if you look at Portland, obviously what we've seen is the Antifa people were hiding behind the cops in Portland. The mayor and the city council, I think the city council in Portland has 4 DSA radicals on the city council. So that's still a problem. But yes, with our so-called objective media, there's never anything dangerous or authoritarian from their left.
No, just sneering that Donald Trump thinks it's an organization. It's not an organization. They completely missed the point.
But it's fact mangling. They obviously organize and they are funded and they have bail funds to get them bailed out. So
and I think Kamala Harris donated to that bail fund.
Yes, the Freedom Fund in Minnesota.
Our sitting vice president of the United States at the time.
And that was something else. And
or was she a senator at that time?
She was the vice presidential contender or something in 2020. But I mean, again, these are all things that they don't find to be controversial because they support them. You know, I think it's really hard to argue from the way that they report on Antifa and the way that they fact check on Antifa that they are not supportive of Antifa. So these are the things we watch. They're always bad at finding any extreme on the left. And that's why we're going to write about it at NewsBusters. So you got to come once, twice, 24 times a day. Thanks for listening and viewing.